You have successfully joined the webcast. Please stand by. The meeting will begin shortly. You have successfully joined the webcast. Please stand by. The meeting will begin shortly. You have successfully joined the webcast. Please stand by. The meeting will begin shortly. You have successfully joined the webcast. Please stand by. The meeting will begin shortly. You have successfully joined the webcast. Please stand by. The meeting will begin shortly. You have successfully joined the webcast. Please stand by. The meeting will begin shortly. You have successfully joined the webcast. Please stand by. The meeting will begin shortly. You have successfully joined the webcast. Please stand by. The meeting will begin shortly. You have successfully joined the webcast. Please stand by. The meeting will begin shortly. You have successfully joined the webcast. Please stand by. The meeting will begin shortly. You have successfully joined the webcast. Please stand by. The meeting will begin shortly. You have successfully joined the webcast. Please stand by. The meeting will begin shortly. You have successfully joined the webcast. Please stand by. The meeting will begin shortly. You have successfully joined the webcast. Please stand by. The meeting will begin shortly. You have successfully joined the webcast. Please stand by. The meeting will begin shortly. You have successfully joined the webcast. Please stand by. The meeting will begin shortly. You have successfully joined the webcast. Please stand by. The meeting will begin shortly. You have successfully joined the webcast. Please stand by. The meeting will begin shortly. You have successfully joined the webcast. Please stand by. The meeting will begin shortly. You have successfully joined the webcast. Please stand by. The meeting will begin shortly. You have successfully joined the webcast. Please stand by. The meeting will begin shortly. You have successfully joined the webcast. Please stand by. The meeting will begin shortly. You have successfully joined the webcast. Please stand by. The meeting will begin shortly. You have successfully joined the webcast. Please stand by. The meeting will begin shortly. You have successfully joined the webcast. Please stand by. The meeting will begin shortly. You have successfully joined the webcast. Please stand by. The meeting will begin shortly.
Good morning, everyone. This is Debbie Royce, Erie Canal Harbor Development Corporation's Corporate Secretary, and I'd like to welcome everyone to this morning's meeting. Before we formally begin, I would ask that you please mute your lines unless you're speaking. We'll begin today by taking a roll call of the directors to ensure we have a quorum present on the line. Please be so kind as to say present when you hear your name. Chair Robert Joya.
Present.
Julie Barnese.
Present.
Connie Lyden.
Present.
Mike Vogel.
Present.
And I believe we have Dan Castle for the County Executive Mark Polencars.
Present.
And Brendan Mahaffey, were you able to join the call for the mayor? Okay. Thanks so much, everyone, for joining today. And Chairman Joya, are you ready to begin?
Thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. I now call to order the meeting of the directors of the Erie Canal Harbor Development Corporation for Monday, March 21st, 2022. Before I get started, I would ask that everyone please mute their phone until they're ready to speak. And also for the record, I will ask that anyone wishing to speak, please be sure to state your name before you begin. I'd like to note for the record that in accordance with current legislation, this meeting will be conducted by teleconference. I will also note for the record that the public was given the opportunity to comment on the agenda items by submitting their written comments by 4:30 p.m. on Friday. I'd like to state for the record that no comments were received from the public concerning today's agenda items. Now, the directors have received the relevant written materials in advance of today's meeting and are free to ask questions at any time. However, before we begin with the substantive portion of the meeting, I would like to ask the directors whether any has any potential conflict of interest with respect to any agenda items. If so, would you please, I would ask you to make an appropriate disclosure for the record at this time. Hearing none, I would like to call upon Steve Rinaldi to present the first item on today's agenda, a request for authorization for the corporation to adopt its operating and capital budgets for fiscal year 2022-2023. Steve, whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Chairman Joya. Good morning, everybody. New York State finance law requires that prior to the commencement on April 1st of each new fiscal year, the directors of the Erie Canal Harbor Development Corporation adopt an annual operating budget and capital budget. This year, the operating budget proposes a total of $1,081,833 in personal services. This includes salaries and fringe benefits for 9 employees, and a total of $240,800 in non-personal services, covering our office occupancy, outside services, and professional fees, insurance, and other administrative expenses. The total of all budgeted personal and non-personal expenses for fiscal year 2022 to 23 is $1,322,633. And consistent with previous years' operating budgets, this year's operating budget will continue to be advanced by Empire State Development, ECHDC's parent, with the expectation of reimbursement at a later date. Separate from the corporation's operating budget is our capital budget. Capital projects are individually approved by the board of directors under separate actions, but this year's fiscal year 2022 to 23 capital budget is $51,479,364. This will include acquisition costs, design costs for several projects at Canal side and the Outer Harbor, legal costs, as well as property management, maintenance costs, and specifically construction to wrapping up the parking lot improvements that have been underway at Canal side, as well as Terminal B on the Outer Harbor, which is part of our Phase 1 set of projects. And we also expect this year, with Heritage Point fully underway on the South Odd Block, ECHDC will be making a contribution to that project and moving forward with the North Odd Block as well. Funding for the corporation's capital budget will be consistent with existing board actions and primarily will consist of both existing and anticipated funds from the New York Power Authority and New York State budget appropriations. No ECHDC corporate funds are included in the capital budget. Approval of the corporation's operating and capital budgets for fiscal year 2022 to 23 constitutes a Type 2 action as defined by the New York State Environmental Quality Review Act. No further environmental review is required in connection with this request. Capital projects are approved by the Board of Directors under separate actions and, as necessary, will be subject to environmental review prior to such board approvals. Based upon the foregoing, the directors are requested to ratify and approve the corporation's proposed fiscal year 2022 to 2023 operating budget in the amount of $1,322,633 and the capital budget in the amount of $51,479,364. Robert?
Thank you, Steve. Any questions or comments from the directors regarding this item?
This is Mike Vogel. A question for Steve. I notice the capital budget, construction costs are way down, and operations and management and maintenance are up nearly $900,000. Is that largely due to the Terminal B status?
Yeah, right. So the overall construction costs are down. That has to do with the fact that we're sort of finishing up a few projects this year. Last year we were not only finishing things up but starting some new. So overall construction costs are down this year. And absolutely, on the maintenance side, that's a part of it. As we bring on these new projects, we increase the property management side to maintain them.
Okay, I suspected as much. Thank you for the confirmation.
Thank you, Mike. Any other questions?
Yes,
Or
Connie
comments?
Lyden. Connie
Yes,
Lyden,
Connie.
I have a comment. On the capital budget, the line item that we were just discussing, the property management and maintenance costs, I am very happy to see that increase because I think it is what's going to make things very successful. So that was good news to see that. And Steve, I have a question on the operating budget. It's a smaller line item. It is under other non-personal services. The outside services and expenses, there's a 50% decrease from $70,000 in 2021 to 2022 to 22 to 23. Could you explain that decrease of 50%?
Yeah, I think it's actually more a reflection of the actual. To be honest with you, I think we had slightly over budgeted the previous year, and we're just bringing that back in line with expectations.
Oh,
for
good.
this year.
Okay.
So that's really
That's
what
good
it was.
news.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
Anyone else, rather? And as noted before, we did not receive any comments from the public regarding this item. I will now entertain a motion for approval.
Mike Vogel, move to approve.
Second?
Connie Lyden, second.
All in favor? Aye.
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 Any opposed? Thank you. The motion carries. Steve will now present the final item on today's agenda, a request for authorization for the corporation to amend its contract with Queen City Bike Ferry for the operation and maintenance services related to the Queen City Bike Ferry. Steve.
Thanks again, Robert. Back in 2014, we entered a 4-year contract with options for 2 3-year extensions with the Queen City Bike Ferry to provide operations, maintenance, and capital improvements associated with a ferry service between Canal side and the Outer Harbor. And then in March of 2019, the board authorized the first 3-year extension. So today we seek authorization for the second and final 3-year extension of this ferry service. It was actually a little over a decade ago that one of our all-volunteer community-led groups of cultural leaders recognized the need to provide public transportation to and from the Outer Harbor. As a result of a formal outreach process, a singular, one-of-a-kind ferry operator, then referred to as the Buffalo Sailing Adventures, then they began doing business eventually as the Queen City Bike Ferry. They were identified to provide ferry services on behalf of ECHDC. The Queen City Bike Ferry is a local, family-owned business that began providing waterborne services out of Canal side the year after we opened. Now in its second generation, Rich Hillman continues the family's tradition of operating high-quality passenger and educational vessels on Buffalo's waterfront, serving tens of thousands of guests each year. Contract extension and related operations fee will ensure that the final 3 years of regular water ferry service with their standardized route and schedule, which the public has come to routinely use on a seasonal basis. Contractor will still be responsible for operations and maintenance, capital improvements, insurance, storage, and dockage, as well as advertising and marketing of the service. A contract reporter exemption for this extension was granted on December 13th of 2021. The extension is the final 3-year operations and maintenance service contract at an amount not to exceed $530,440, bringing the total contract amount to $1,750,000. $652,190, which comes out to approximately $165,000 annually for the 10 years of service that they will eventually provide. The ECHDC funds will be used to fully support all operations and maintenance costs as outlined under the scope of work above. The source of funding is the New York State Power Authority relicensing agreement, and revenue from the sale of round-trip tickets, sponsorships, and other income associated with the operations will be deposited into ECHDC's account. Staff has examined and the proposed contractor's responsibility defined in state finance law and as provided in procurement guidelines. And based on this analysis, staff concludes that the proposed contractor is a responsible vendor. The directors are requested to, 1, amend the contract with the Queen City Bike Ferry in an amount of $530,440 for a total contract amount not to exceed $1,652,190, and to authorize the taking of all actions related to this foregoing above. Based on the foregoing, I recommend that the directors authorize approval of the requested actions. Robert?
Thank you, Steve. Are there any questions or comments from any of the directors with regard to this item?
Mike Vogel, I do have a question, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Mike.
Are we going to be giving any consideration during the term of this extension to expanding the ferry to a water taxi service to some of the outer harbor sites we're bringing online? And if so, will we need to amend the dollar amount in this extension?
Yeah, Mike, currently we are not contemplating extending the routes. The original service prior to the bike ferry, when we just were running the ferry service, we had run from Canal side to the outer harbor, all the way out to Buffalo Harbor State Park, as well as even up the river for a while. And we found that ultimately people were really more interested in going directly back and forth to the outer harbor on a short route, a place that they could see, and then get off from there. So we think, or this amendment is to continue the service as is, and drop people off there at the north end of the outer harbor, where they can certainly get a bike rental or bring their bike across and ride the entire outer harbor.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that.
Any other questions, comments? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion for approval.
Julie Barnese, so moved.
Second?
Mike Vogel, second.
Thank you. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. The motion carries. There being no further business, I will entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Mike Vogel, so moved.
Second?
Connie Lyden,
Julie
second.
Barnese, second.
Thank you. We are adjourned. Thank you so much, everybody, for participating in today's meeting.
Thank you, Robert. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Debbie, thank you.
Okay, thanks. Have a good day, everybody.
You as well.